I'm sure you all know what these symbols mean. When you send a request like this, the person you send it to must choose how they respond to your request. They may choose to accept it, they may choose to ignore it, or they might even choose to deny the request. But you see, we all make requests in our everyday lives, not just on our social media accounts. We may request someone to get us a drink. We may request some help with a piece of work that we're doing, or we may request for someone to buy us a puppy for Christmas. I personally am still waiting for that one. While Jesus was here on earth, he received many different requests from many different people. Many people came and asked him for food, for money, to be healed, to be taught many different things, or for some of the power that he had. And still today, many people turn to Jesus in prayer with their requests, and sometimes maybe a very long list of those requests. So how does Jesus respond to the requests that we bring him? We're going to find out a bit more about that today as we hear about a man named Jairus. Jairus came to Jesus with a very desperate and a very urgent request. You see, Jairus came to Jesus and said, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and heal her so that she may live." We read about Jairus in Mark chapter 5, and as we read, we realise that Jairus was a well-respected and an important member of his community. He was the leader of the local synagogue, which meant that he was responsible for overseeing the worship that was taking place there and for caring for the building. But you see, the people in the synagogues were not really big fans of Jesus. They were keeping a close eye on him, watching everything he was doing, listening to everything he was saying, trying to catch him out and making sure that he was not going against some of their teachings. But Jairus, he had a problem. He had a daughter. She was only 12 and she was dying. He was desperate and he did not know what to do. I wonder, had he heard about some of the other people that Jesus had healed? I wonder, did he believe that Jesus could heal his own daughter? I wonder, had he heard about some other people's opinions of Jesus and did he agree with them? It would have been difficult for Jairus to bring his request to Jesus. As a well-respected member of the community, it would have opened him up to criticism and ridicule to approach Jesus in this way. Maybe that's sometimes how we feel about bringing our requests to Jesus. Maybe like Jairus, we feel a bit desperate. There's something going on and we don't know what to do, but we can always turn to Jesus. Or maybe we're a bit worried about what other people might think. Will our friends and our family criticize or ridicule us for bringing our request to Jesus? Jairus decided that bringing his request to Jesus was worth it. And as we keep reading, we find out exactly what happened. Jesus immediately started to travel with Jairus towards where his daughter was. I'm sure Jairus started to feel some hope. I'm sure he started to walk as fast as he could back to where his daughter was. But you see, Jesus was also dealing with some other things. As we read, he was there as part of a large crowd with many, many people who had many, many other requests. And if we read in verses 25 to 34, we can see a situation that unfolded as Jesus was traveling. Here, Jesus has an amazing encounter with a woman who had been suffering with a really difficult medical condition for 12 years. She had the faith to know that Jesus was who he said he was and that he could heal her. Even amongst this big crowd, Jesus took the time with her individually to heal her and to commend her faith. Maybe you could take some time when this video ends to read about that amazing encounter. But this woman's joy of being healed is followed in the very next verse by Jairus' despair as he receives a really tragic message. While Jesus was still speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher anymore?" For Jairus, he saw his request as the most important thing. This was the only chance he had left to save his daughter. Maybe Jairus thought that Jesus taking the time with this woman had cost his daughter's life. Did Jesus not take his request seriously enough? Why did he not travel faster? But Jesus knew what he was doing all along. He had an amazing plan already in place. And he turned to Jairus and said, "Do not be afraid, just believe." Let's read what happened when they arrived at the house. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw a commotion, with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. After he put them all outside, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him, and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. At this they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this and told them to give her something to eat. Jesus had the power to bring the girl back to life. Jairus had his little daughter back. Any feelings of desperation that he had were gone. Any feelings of frustration about Jesus not being quick enough were gone too. Jairus had brought his request to Jesus, and Jesus responded to it, doing what was best for Jairus, for his daughter, for the crowd he had been teaching, and for the woman he encountered who had a long-term illness. Jesus responded to the requests in the right way, with his plans, because he always knows what is best. So what requests do you want to bring to Jesus? Maybe right now most of us have some similar sounding requests. Can all of this just be over? I want life to go back to normal, whatever normal is or will be. Can you just stop some more people from dying? I know somebody who is sick and it just doesn't seem fair. Can you show me that everything with my schoolwork and my exams and my future is going to be okay? I just can't see how things are going to work out. Just like Jairus, it is good for us to bring our requests in respect to God. But as we talked about earlier, people can choose to respond to our requests in different ways. And God may respond to our requests in different ways. He may choose to respond with a yes. He may choose to respond with a no. Or he may choose to respond with a not yet. We may see and understand his response straight away, but we may not see and understand his response straight away. Jairus probably wanted a different response, a quicker, more direct, more urgent response, but he got the response that was right for him, and in the end he saw that Jesus' way was good. God may not always respond to our requests in the way that we would want or expect, but we can know and trust that God will respond to our requests in the way that is right and in the way that is best for us. It is important when we bring our requests to Jesus that we don't just bring all sorts of things to him, but we bring requests to him that are pleasing to him. It tells us in 1 John chapter 5 and verse 14 and 15, "And we are confident that he hears us whenever we ask for anything that pleases him. And since we know he hears us when we make our requests, we also know that he will give us what we ask for." So how does Jesus respond to our requests? In the way that is right and is best for us, according to his plans. I wonder, does that give you the freedom to bring your requests to him today?